Outliers, the story of success. Success is often celebrated as the product of talent, ambition, and relentless determination. We look at the world's most accomplished people, geniuses, athletes, billionaires, and assume they achieved greatness because they were simply better, smarter, or harder working than everyone else. But in Outliers, the story of success, Malcolm Gladwell challenges this traditional narrative. He argues that success is never just about individual brilliance. Instead, it is deeply rooted in hidden advantages, cultural legacies, timing, opportunity, and the environments people grow up in. Gladwell's central thesis is clear: success is not an act of isolated genius but the accumulation of circumstances and opportunities, led upon effort and dedication. To understand why some people achieve extraordinary things while others, equally talented, do not, we must look beyond the individual and examine the larger systems that shape them. Let us take a deep dive into the powerful stories and lessons from Outliers. The myth of the self-made man. One of the first myths Gladwell dismantles is the idea of the self-made man. We love stories of entrepreneurs who started from nothing, geniuses who emerged from obscurity, or athletes who defied all odds. Yet, when you look closely at these stories, you find a different reality. Success is rarely built in isolation, it is the product of hidden advantages that often go unnoticed. Gladwell introduces us to the Matthew effect, a term borrowed from the Gospel of Matthew, for unto everyone that shall be given. In the world of success, those who have a small advantage at the beginning often accumulate more and more benefits over time, widening the gap between them and others. A striking example comes from Canadian hockey. The best players often have birthdays in the first few months of the year. Why? Because youth hockey leagues cut off their age brackets on January 1st. A boy born in January is almost a year older, and therefore bigger, stronger, and more developed, than a boy born in December of the same calendar year. Coaches mistake this maturity for talent, give the older boys better coaching and more opportunities, and over time, these small differences compound until those January-born kids dominate professional hockey. The lesson is profound: success often begins not with talent alone but with an early head start that multiplies over time. The 10,000-hour rule. Perhaps the most famous idea from Outliers is the 10,000-hour rule. Gladwell argues that mastery in any complex field requires roughly 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. Talent may give you an entry point, but only relentless, focused practice leads to world-class performance. He illustrates this with the story of the Beatles. Long before they became a global phenomenon, the Beatles played night after night in small clubs in Hamburg, Germany. Their grueling schedule forced them to perform for 8 hours at a time, experimenting with different styles, pushing their limits, and refining their craft. By the time they returned to England, they had accumulated thousands of hours of live performance, giving them a level of polish and confidence that set them apart. Similarly, Bill Gates' rise as a technology pioneer wasn't simply because he was a genius. He happened to attend a school in Seattle that had one of the very first computer labs in the country in the late 1960s. Gates spent countless nights coding, gaining a level of experience that most people his age could not even imagine. By the time personal computers were taking off, Gates had already logged well over 10,000 hours of practice, positioning him perfectly to seize the opportunity. The takeaway is clear: extraordinary success requires extraordinary practice, but the chance to accumulate those hours often depends on access to unique opportunities. The importance of timing. Gladwell also highlights the role of timing in success. Being born in the right year, in the right context, can make all the difference. Consider the rise of tech giants like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Eric Schmidt. They were all born in the mid-1950s, making them the perfect age when personal computers began to emerge in the 1970s. Too old, and they might have already settled into established careers. Too young, and they would have missed the first wave of opportunity. Success often requires being in the right place at the right time, and sometimes, simply being born in the right era. Cultural legacy and its hidden influence. Another central idea in Outliers is the power of cultural legacies, deep-rooted traditions, values, and behaviors passed down through generations. These cultural patterns shape how people think, work, and interact with others, often without them realizing it. Gladwell gives the example of plane crashes. For years, airlines struggled with accidents caused not by mechanical failure but by human communication errors in the cockpit. In cultures with strict hierarchies, co-pilots felt reluctant to question their captains, even when they noticed mistakes. This cultural deference sometimes had tragic consequences. When airlines recognized this pattern, they changed training to encourage open communication, even across authority lines. The result was a dramatic improvement in aviation safety. Culture also plays a role in work ethic. Gladwell points to the legacy of rice farming in Asia, where cultivating rice required meticulous, year-round labor. This tradition instilled values of persistence, patience, and diligence, which later translated into high achievement in education and work. Redefining success. In the end, Outliers forces us to rethink what success really means. It is not simply the triumph of talent, willpower, or intelligence. Instead, success is built at the intersection of opportunity, timing, cultural legacy, hard work, and community support. Gladwell shows us that by understanding the hidden patterns behind success, we can create fairer systems, whether in education, business, or sports, that give more people the chance to thrive. Closing reflection. The genius of Outliers lies in its humility. It strips away the myth of the solitary hero and instead paints success as a tapestry woven from countless threads: family, culture, opportunity, timing, and effort. We may admire those who achieve greatness, but rather than viewing them as untouchable, Gladwell reminds us that their stories reveal deeper lessons about how society can nurture potential in everyone. When we understand these truths, we stop asking, who is the smartest, the most gifted, the most special, and instead ask, what opportunities, environments, and legacies allowed this success to flourish? That question brings us closer to building a world where success is not a lottery of birth, but a possibility available to many.